She care about the climate, care about women, care about youth, care about elderly, care about people with disabilities.
Why we don't know these things about her previously?
Alright guys, so I recently asked you all to do a bit of research on President Halimah.
Yes.
You all might have thought, why he suddenly asked us to research about her? Okay, the reason is simple. I was recently having a chat with a friend. I don't know much about Halimah actually, but through our chat, I got to know a lot more. And she's a person who is really incredible.
Yeah, also when I read
about it.
So many things.
We actually discussed about her for quite a long time because her term is going to come to an end very soon. In fact, I think on April 10, she's going to have her last presidential address in Parliament.
So soon?
Yes.
Wow, it's a few days.
The elections will come later in September, but we won't really see her as much unless you are in her circle and stuff. Or unless you go on her Facebook most of the time.
Actually, she's very active on Facebook.
Super, that's where
It's
I
like,
get.
every 2 days got something different on.
Yeah, so I wanted to discuss how her term as president has been. Because I feel a lot of people have a very skewed perception of her as president. A very biased, very unfair view of her. And it usually boils down to two criticisms. First one is this: she won the presidency through the reserve elections. So in Singapore, the presidential election is reserved for a community if no one from the community has been president in the last 5 terms. So we haven't had a Malay president for 5 terms. That's why the last presidency was reserved for a Malay person. And according to Prime Minister Lee, at least, it is important to have this. Why? Because we must have a minority president from time to time. This is what he said, a non-Chinese. Then people see that, yes, this is my country. Someone like me can become the head of state and can represent the country. So let me ask you guys, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it is good because we are racially diversified.
Okay.
But I think it's not good for the person that is receiving the post. Because you're president, citizens will say like, oh, it's
given to her,
you. And just nice sadly for Halimah Yacob, there is no competitor to quote unquote prove her worth. Yeah. So I feel like it might devalue the credibility of the person assuming the position.
I mean, they can. This one, right? If people want to talk shit about it, right? I believe people will say whatever they say, but it's justified. But you have to know how difficult it is to be a president, to be accepted as a candidate,
Not even pass,
Yeah, like you say she's a walkover, right? Because all the other candidates cannot make it. Yeah.
And the criteria is really very stringent, very strict. You must hit all the eligibility for that, And I believe, right, it's really not easy,
Speaking of criteria, let me just run through some of it. Okay, so over here we have all the criteria to be president. There are quite a number, more than 10. I'll just read some of the harder to hit one, because being a Singapore citizen, not very hard to hit. Just born at the right place can hit. Okay, but some of them satisfy the Presidential Elections Committee that he or she is a person of integrity, of good character and reputation. So this one, of course, is subjective, but there are many things that will not make you be seen as a person of good character.
Yeah.
You must not be found to be of unsound mind. You cannot be a discharged bankrupt. You must not have convicted an offence, sentenced to at least 1 year, or fined for at least 10,000. Okay, you must not have gotten citizenship in some other country. If let's say you're from the private sector, there are also a couple of different criteria you need to hit. For example, you must have held office as Minister, Chief Justice, Speaker, Attorney General, Chairman of the Public Service Commission, Auditor General, Accountant General, or Permanent Secretary for at least 3 years, or serve as Chief Executive of a key statutory board like the HDB or GIC, for example. So it's not easy. There are people, of course, in these positions, but it's not easy to hit also. If let's say you're in the private sector, it's also very difficult. You must be the CEO of a company, must have served for at least 3 years as CEO, and the company must be valued at least $500 million.
Oh. Okay.
So the main idea is because they want to find somebody who has experience either in the public space or the private space in running a big corporation or board or something. Because then you will show that you have the chops to run the nation.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys, if let's say somebody fits all of these criteria, do you think that person is worthy to be president?
I think worthy is the word. Worthy is the word.
The reason why I
Worthy,
asked you this, right, is because a lot of people think if you win the reserve elections, criteria is easier. So you're not worthy. That's not true.
Those
The
people that
criteria
It's the same, right?
is the same.
Yeah, those people that think this will never even hit these criteria.
Exactly.
And you know
Maybe
what's
they
the-
hit the Singapore citizen.
That's all.
You're all not worthy.
Okay, so earlier I talked about PM Lee and his quote about minority representation and why the reserve presidential election is important, right? I can tell you I'm not a fan of it at all. I understand its merits, but I feel, right, if let's say you need to see that a person of my ethnicity is represented, then you feel like I'm represented, you are seeing each other as Indian, Malay, Chinese first. If I find 10 times 10 terms, all 10 terms is Indian, all 10 terms is Chinese, all 10 terms is Malay, right? I still wouldn't care because all 10 terms is a Singaporean first. So I'm not a fan of it lah. I understand maybe not everyone feels that way. Maybe some people might feel we need equal
Yeah, I
representation.
think that's
or
what they are trying to do because they need to balance the feeling of like, why every time it's like this race only.
Yeah, but I feel it perpetuates the idea of you are your race first before you are your nationality lah.
In the process of blurring the line, they draw more lines.
Possibly. But who else would feel this is not so fair? No? Halimah. You know why? No? Because if let's say she was elected normally, she can stand for a second term. Now she can't.
Oh,
In
that's the...
September, she has to give this position up
Aiyo,
because hers was a reserve election.
aiyo.
Like she have the chops for it lah.
Exactly. Any other time she contests for it, 100% 2 terms.
Wait, then that's a limitation to the reserve election
Yeah.
already.
It is. Okay, so the first criticism is reserve election, right? The second criticism a lot of people have is it was a walkover. No contest. And I feel, okay, fine, it is a fair criticism. But let me ask you guys this, I paint an analogy. We were just talking about swimming, right? Because KP and I recently went swimming, we swam a lot of laps.
A lot is My girl Phelps got nothing on. You never even go and swim.
Hey, my broad shoulder, bro.
Still want to widen up.
So we went swimming recently, so I want to bring in a swimming analogy. Okay, if let's say you go for a swimming meet, okay, you're going for a competition, right? You go for the heats, 30 of y'all go, in the final competition only 8 of y'all can compete. Okay, you submit your timings. Cut-off point they require for the competition, because every competition sets their standards, and it will not be the top 8. To qualify, there is a minimum criteria, and then those who meet the criteria, they rank you in top 8. So let's say the minimum criteria is 50-meter freestyle, 25 seconds. Okay, most of y'all can do 23, 24, 25 seconds. But it just so happened that for the qualifying heats, only one person managed to get 25 seconds. So in the finals, there was only one person. Let me ask you guys, let's say in the finals, this one person is Michael Phelps. Would you say that because there is no one else to compete, he doesn't deserve to be the winner?
No lah.
He deserves it.
Because at the end of the day, there is still one entry point first. You need to go through that first, and then you challenge others.
If the other competitors don't even meet the entry point, then
It doesn't undermine you.
yeah. And everybody is playing by the same standardized metrics, what?
Correct.
I think in Singapore record, right, there were 3 presidents that were just them only. Like, I think Yusof is one of them. Then Benjamin is also one of them, and another one. So
As another
Where's another?
They-
As another was a walkover.
yeah, so
election.
so just they make the decision.
Then how come
And-
nobody say when another win the walkover?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody will dispute that he was a fantastic president. Walkover election doesn't determine whether you're a good president or not.
And usually, right, it's towards their end of term, right, that they are recognized of what they have done, And I think that's the case for Halimah Yacob, I feel.
Yeah, so okay, let's talk about Halimah Yacob, because I asked you guys to research about her, right? So what have y'all researched about?
Okay, I want to go first because I learned a lot about things about her. Okay, but to be honest, before this, I don't know anything about Halimah Yacob other than the fact that she's our president. Okay, so I went to read up about her and I scrolled her Facebook. Okay, I realized that she's a person, right, that is very on the ground and is actively involved in like events organized by different community and welfare groups. So for example, recently there is the World Autistic Awareness Day. She broke fast with the beneficiaries and the volunteers from Be Kind SG, which is which is a volunteer-led group that helps people with intellectual disabilities. And I think that's heartwarming
She's very community driven. Always in.
One thing that I realized, right, that adds on to that, right, is she focuses a lot on helping people who are underprivileged and also workers in general. So for example, I found out that she is an executive secretary of NTUC, which promotes social welfare for the workers, and also the Minister of State for Manpower. So during her position, she will advocate for policies that will help workers to upgrade their skills, to remain like relevant and employed most importantly.
And until today, ministries are adopting that approach. They want people to upskill, continue to develop themselves.
And you guys know about the progressive wage model? So she's supported for that also, because it helps to increase the wages for the lower income workers. So from this you can see like she actually got heart for the people that she's taking care of. So one thing, right, that I also found out that she stands for is youth development. So okay, firstly, she's a patron of the Youth Corps Singapore, a group that develop youth leaders She encouraged youth entrepreneurship. Like she will even go down and visit startups and incubator to encourage.
Halimah, visit us.
So this will like, when you are presenting, when you're out there, you want the fun, you want to start a business, a president come and support you, you will feel that support, the drive and the support.
And she does it very generously. Like you have so many commitments as a president. She still goes down, meets these people, encourages them and stuff.
You know what they say about youth, right? They are the future building blocks of the country. So it is important for people of presence and experience and knowledge to go down and empower these youths.
I believe in you.
Empowering the youth is important. And another community that she empowers a lot, right, is the women. Like back then, like recent years, right, this topic is super common. But like back then in 10, 20, 30 years, right, this is a topic where people don't really talk about it.
That's true. No woke police.
So despite that, right, Halimah Yacob, she was already supporting all the ladies, especially when she was in NTUC, right. She stands up for the women. She tells the women to, step out of their comfort zone, to take up leadership roles. And I believe till today, right, she's still a believer of that. And you take a look at her. She's the first speaker of the parliament, and she's also the first women president. So
a lot of ceilings broken.
It's like when I hear this, I feel empowered.
Wow, you got feel empowered.
I thought woman, right? You can feel empowered as a Singaporean, right?
Another thing she cares for, right, is climate change. Like for us, when we talk about climate change, we probably don't do anything.
You all gonna use the recycling bin downstairs your house before?
Use.
No, use is one thing, but
I use it as a dustbin
use wrongly is another thing.
Hey, I got off the light for Earth Hour. Whoa!
No way.
Living room, my computer.
I thought how they just switch off everything.
They bought down
1 hour.
For 1 hour. So for us, right, we probably do very minimum or nothing, But for her level, right, she can come up with policies that can really impact the country, impact Singapore. So one of the things that she came up with, right, is Singapore Green Plan 2030. So this, right, is actually, it's a huge project, where you probably have to do a lot of like construction or like moving like trees or, all this restructuring. This is so just to put Singapore to be a city in nature. So you can see that she really cares about the climate change.
How dare you!
Okay. One of the other thing that I read about our president, right, is she cares a lot about the elderly. Yeah. Do you guys know the health zone there? Health promotion board, health zone. She's also a support of that. So health zone, right, actually allows elderly to go for health screening and also educate them about their health for free.
Free, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sure.
So and other programs that she supported is also the Silver Support Scheme, which pay off. Give a quarterly payment to elderlies that are from low income.
Low income.
Yeah. And also your favorite, bro. Pioneer Generation card.
I tell you, that card is super overpowered. There's so many benefits, bro.
Yeah, we always compare which charge card better but the Pioneer Generation card, that's the card we aim for.
You cannot fight, bro. You cannot fight that one.
Yeah. So another thing that she support, right, is also you can really tell that she really loves and care for people with disabilities. Yeah, from like the policy that she actually supported So one of it is enabling master plan. Yeah, so this master plan, right, is to make Singapore more accessible, like building more ramps, lifts. Yeah. So and other things is also the special assistant plan, which give monetary support, like financial aids to families taking care of people with disabilities. Yeah, and lastly, right, is the open door program. The open door program, right, is hopes to match up people with disabilities to workplace and also provide them training of how they can contribute to the society.
I think that's good.
It's interesting you brought up the idea of she really loves persons of disability, because I have a video over here. It's by a former NMP, nominated member of parliament. Her name is Chia Yong Yong. She's also at one point she was a president of this charity group called Serving People with Disabilities. Okay, and I want to share this video because it really encapsulates how people around Halimah Yacob feels about her.
I think what stands out about Madam Halimah is the fact that she walks with her heart and her head. Madam doesn't come across to me as interacting as a politician. She interacts as a person, somebody who understands the challenges of a working mom, a single mom, someone who empathizes with persons with special needs and the elderly with special needs, the vulnerability of these groups, and someone who has actually walked along with us. In Parliament, and even now, we refer to her as Madam. But really, it's out of the respect for her office and for her then office, and now for her as a person because of what she has touched us with.
Wow.
So a very heartfelt message from Miss Chia. You can really see the people around her, they don't value her as just a leader. They value her as somebody who inspires them, somebody who makes them want to be a better version of themselves.
Thank you for believing in me.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like she really treats people with her heart. And with that, right, she actually came up with the slogan, do good, do together. But I tell you, you know how many people shit on this slogan or not? Because you know why? They say it's grammatical error. And I feel like...
That's why they are not in the copywriting team.
That's why.
Please, Madam Halimah, you have somebody here, copywriter. Singapore's top copywriter, get me.
And Halimah Yacob, right, she said this is it's easy to absorb. Do good, do together. You look at the video, everything she does is do good, do together.
That's true.
She care about the climate, care about women, care about youth, care about elderly, care about people with disabilities.
Why we don't know these things about her previously?
And that's the reason why I wanted to do this video. Because I feel we didn't know much. Most of the people probably don't know much also. And I don't want, now that she's gonna, have her last presidential address, and maybe in September there's gonna be a new president, I don't want her legacy to be lost as the person who won the reserve presidential election. She has stood for so many things, she has inspired so many people. People need to remember her for what she really stood for, which are some of the things that we discussed .
Yes.
So let me ask you guys, when she steps down as president, will you remember her for her great contribution to the nation?
Yes! Now yes!
How about you guys? What do you think? Let us know and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye!